just made this silly little cabinet for my Volkswagen camper van. I needed a little cabinet in there to hold some stuff, and came up with this design real quick and made it in about an hour yesterday. And you know, when you make stuff in the afternoon, you always screw up, you always make some kind of mistake. I made two here. I wanted to hinge the lid, but I forgot that I wanted to, and I ended up screwing the thing down before I put the hinge on it. Well, I had to remove the screws, so I clipped them off and just left them in there, so at least it had something to fill the holes. And then I put the piano hinge on the top. So I've got a little compartment right inside there. Another mistake I made was, I wanted this door to hinge on this side, not on that side. This is exactly the kind of stuff that happens when you're making something at 5 or 6 at night, you know, and you're in a hurry too. So I'm going to pull this door off and switch the hand on that hinge, which is going to give me an opportunity to show you something that I learned while I was making this. I've always used a big impact driver, and I've loved them. Since they first started coming out, you know, I've been using one of these for driving hinge screws and butt hinges and hundreds of drywall screws when I'm hanging metal doors and metal jambs and doors. And I use it for decking screws. I use it for framing. I love these things. And I always thought I'd never go back to driving screws with a regular drill motor. In fact, a few years ago, Bosch came out with this little impactor. And I just love the heck out of this thing. It's got the little light in it, you know. I just love this thing. But even this tool is a little too big to get inside of a space like this and drive a screw straight in. But what really bugs me about it is it's noisy. Now, I used to rely on that sound to help me drive these screws so I wouldn't split them off or shear them or something or strip them. I used to feather the trigger. This is a technique I used, and most of you guys have learned the same thing. You just feather the trigger, and that's what helps you drive the screw without shearing it or splitting it or stripping the screw out of the wood. Well, that's the only control you have with an impact driver, feathering the trigger. And you can't hear what's really going on because this thing is making so much noise as you're driving the screws. I didn't realize until I just recently got this new Festool CXS driver that hearing what's going on as well as feeling it is really important when you're running screws. With this little tool, well, I'll just show you what I mean. The CSX comes with a really cool right angle attachment. It's real easy to put on, and it comes in handy, at least for me, on the very first day you get to drill. You can get it into tight spaces like this. And I just need to pull this piano hinge off and turn that door upside down and hinge it the other way. There we go. This is a great measuring and marking layout tool that Keith Mathewson turned me on to. I really like this thing. It's fabulous for laying out hinges and stuff that I used to measure for. Instead of measuring, I just set this up so it's close to the edge of the hinge right here, to the back side of the hinge, and then tighten down the back knob here, and then I can turn the little knurled knob right here and get that up close to where the hinge is and just dial this in until I got it right where I want it. So this edge of the marker lines up with the back side of the hinge. And then tighten down both of these little knobs, and then the thing's ready to go. Now all I have to do is take that marker, get it in here, and roll it right along this face frame, just like so, and it'll spin in my finger as I run it down here. Leave a mark, a nice sharp one, right where the back side of that hinge goes. And the first thing I need to do is drill some holes, some pilot holes for each of these screws with a Vicks bit here. And good luck getting into someplace this tight with a regular drill. But with this little right angle attachment, the whole job's as easy as can be. and driving the screws in is just as easy. I'm going to put each screw in. I'm going to drill each hole as I go so that the hinge ends up right where I want it. Great. A couple more. Kind of makes me wish I had two of these things. One to drive screws and one for the bit bit, so I wouldn't have to keep changing bits. Nice. Excellent. Now all I've got to do is mount that strike that was down here back up here, and I'll be all finished. Did you notice though how quiet this thing is? I mean, you could hear every little squeak and turn of it as I was driving these screws, and you need to be able to hear that. I mean, that's what I was talking about, the difference between an impact driver and a regular drill motor when you're running small screws. Hearing is how you know when to stop in time. So actually, that even plays a role when you're running pocket hole screws, which is something I never recognized before. Let me show you what I mean. You're probably already beginning to guess what I mean by driving pocket screws with this. There it is. You could hear it every step of the way. I mean, every fraction of the inch, all the way in. This one I couldn't hear at all when I tightened it up. And this one I could hear perfectly, all the way down until it's seated snug. For putting on these little latches and strikes, I don't know any other way I could drill these holes so accurately. Try doing that with any other tool. These little brass latches are really cool. I really like them. They hold the door securely, but they don't come with any instructions on how to install, and it's not exactly intuitive. Here's the trick I use. I just take a couple of screws and clip them off with a pair of dikes or wire cutters, and then reverse this thing and put it right in so they're sticking out of there. You just take the door and shut it, give it a good tap or two, and it'll leave a couple of dings right in the edge of the door. Oh, there's kind of a big one. There's the other one right there. So I'll drive this one in with that little Bosch impactor and see what I'm talking about. Let me hold that up in place. See, it's already starting to engage the impactor. And with a screw that small, I can't really tell when it's snugging down. I just feather the trigger really gently with my finger here, so it just turns the screw a little bit at a time, and that's how I prevent it from stripping. Now I'll use this little Festool drill. I'm going to take the right angle attachment off. All you have to do is pull it back just like you do on the regular Festool chuck, and the same with the attachment itself. Just pull this little switch back here back, and the head comes right off, and you can put the other one right back on. Same way. Just pull it, lift back on the switch here, and it's engaged. Much nicer. I can actually hear the motor straining as that screw comes down against that brass strike. Perfect.